walls were dimmed with mist. We may stay here till we die. With that word, the heat seemed to increase until it became a threatening weight, and the lagoon attacked them with a blinding effulgence. "Get my clothes," muttered Ralph. "Along there." He trotted through the sand, enduring the sun's enmity, crossed the platform, and found his scattered clothes. To put on a gray shirt once more was strangely pleasing. Then he climbed the edge of the platform and sat in the green shade on a convenient trunk. Piggy hauled himself up, carrying most of his clothes under his arms. Then he carefully sat on a fallen trunk near the little cliff that fronted the lagoon, and the tangled reflections quivered over him. Presently he spoke. "We got to find the others. We got to do something." Ralph said nothing. Here was a coral island, protected from the sun. Ignoring Piggy's ill-omened talk, he dreamed pleasantly. Piggy insisted. "How many of us are there?" Ralph came forward and stood by Piggy. "I don't know." Here and there, little breezes crept over the polished waters beneath the haze of heat. When these breezes reached the platform, the palm fronds would whisper so that spots of blurred sunlight slid over their bodies, or moved like bright winged things in the shade. Piggy looked up at Ralph. All the shadows on Ralph's face were reversed. Green above, bright below, from the lagoon. A blur of sunlight was crawling across his hair. "We got to do something." Ralph looked through him. Here at last was the imagined but never fully realized place leaping into real life. Ralph's lips parted in a delighted smile, and Piggy, taking this smile to himself as a mark of recognition, laughed with pleasure. "If it really is an island, what's that?" Ralph had stopped smiling and was pointing into the lagoon. Something creamy lay among the ferny weeds. A stone. No, a shell. Suddenly Piggy was abubble with decorous excitement. "'S right, it's a shell. I seen one like that before on someone's back wall. A conch, he called it. He used to blow it, and then his mum would come. It's ever so valuable." Near to Ralph's elbow, a palm sapling leaned out over the lagoon. Indeed, the weight was already pulling a lump from the poor soul, and soon it would fall. He tore out the stem and began to poke about in the water, while the brilliant flish flicked away on this side and that. Piggy leaned dangerously. "Careful, you'll break it." "Shut up." Ralph spoke absently. The shell was interesting and pretty and a worthy plaything, but the vivid phantoms of his daydream still interposed between him and Piggy, who in this context was an irrelevance. The palm sapling, bending, pushed the shell across the weeds. Ralph used one hand as a fulcrum and pressed down with the other till the shell rose, dripping, and Piggy could make a grab. Now the shell was no longer a thing to be seen, but to be touched. Ralph became too excited. Piggy babbled. "A conch, ever so expensive. I bet if you wanted to buy one, you'd have to pay pounds and pounds and pounds." He had it on a garden wall, and my auntie. Ralph took the shell from Piggy, and a little water ran down his arm. said you blew from down here. Piggy laid a hand on his jutting abdomen. You try, Ralph. You call the others. Doubtfully, Ralph laid the small end of the shell against his mouth and blew. There came a rushing sound from its mouth, but nothing more. Ralph wiped the salt water off of his lips and tried again, but the shell remained silent. He kinda spat. Ralph pursed his lips and squirted air into the shell, which emitted a low, farting noise. This amused both boys so much that Ralph went on squirting for some minutes, between bouts of laughter. He blew from down here. Ralph grasped the idea and hit the shell with